Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. I'm Christine, life balance coach and world champion ballroom dancer, and I believe that everyone has the power to create their very own life by design. The Recovering Perfectionist Podcast was created with a mission to encourage a life of abundance by finding peace and acceptance in our own imperfections and developing healthy self-love through sustainable habits and manifestation. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Welcome back to another intuitive conversation on the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I am so excited for this guest right now. I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine, Kenzie Co-Star, who is a business coach for coaches, and we have some history. I'm very excited to get into it. Kenzie, I can't believe you're here.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and dive into this juicy conversation with you.
Yes. We, Kenzie and I met through Chris and Jenna. We're in this bubble that they've all, her, Ross, Jess have created. And we were in her coaching program, and we just connected in a way that we just have a very similar mindset of how we work and how we want to accomplish things. And you're in Canada in the winter right now.
Yes. Where it's cold.
And I am in California, as you guys know. And so it was really cool, I think, for us to be able to connect, in different parts of the world, feeling like we were feeling the same thing at the same time, and then being able to see what we've done. Because now you're going to hear all the incredible things that we've created in the last, what's it been, 2 years?
Just a year, just over
a year. Oh my God, it feels like so much longer.
I know, it's actually crazy. I was reflecting in November. I'm pretty sure that's roughly when the program started.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We've done a lot in a very short amount of time.
That's crazy. Yeah. So for those that are feeling stuck right now, just know you can make some dramatic shifts in a very short span of time if you really set your mind to it. And so I think let's talk about a little bit when we started, Ken's, where we were in BMC with Kristen, how we were feeling so excited but overwhelmed and just wanting to feel the feelings that she was talking to us about right then and there. And we knew it was coming, but we just weren't there. And we kind of created our own little side conversation, with outside of the coaching calls. Cause we were just man, we just need to keep going on this. Cause that didn't make sense, this, and whatever. So what was your experience at the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, my experience started before, I even said yes to that opportunity, right? It was my life primed me for that opportunity.
Love that.
When it came into my life, where I just walked away from a 5-year-long relationship and was, very supported in that relationship and never moved out on my own up until that point, always had that kind of partner in life, right? And so I walked away from that because it was no longer aligned. I kind of just, threw myself out into the wilderness of the world to figure out life and start doing things on my own. But I had literally no sense of direction, no sense of certainty. I had no idea what was going to happen next. I was literally living off of COVID relief money and teaching yoga, trying to literally survive. And so I saved up, basically every penny that I had. And once this opportunity to join BMC presented itself to me, I was I have to take it, it was placed on my path for a very specific reason. And that was to take it. Right. And so if I didn't take it, man, I have no idea where I'd be, probably just still on struggle street, but even worse,
I feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically going into the program, I made an energetic declaration and commitment to myself that if I'm going to spend, this amount of money on myself and look at myself as my best return on investment, that I'm damn well going to get a return on my investment, and I'm going to make sure to it. Right. And so I told myself, like, I'm going to have my first 10K launch. And I'd never had anything of that, in life before, that amount of money that I've generated, in like one go of anything. And so, basically coming into that program, like, I really declared the results that I ultimately did receive at the end of it. And so in retrospect, it's really cool to see when you do commit and when you do declare what you're really going to go after, and you go after it all the way, like, you're kind of bound to get what you want. Right.
Yeah, 100%. And for those of you like just listening right now, like that, like Kenzie was the star of our group. Like there's a reason her last name, like co-star, she was the shining star. You declared it. You were like, I'm going to do this. And honestly, I think a big part of it was like, it was a survival mode for you. I love that. Like, thanks for sharing. Like, a lot of us were living on, COVID relief and unemployment and some of those things, because like that was helping get us through that time. But like for you to be so energetically matched with that result that you were wanting to create. And then, once we started launching and everyone started launching, you were like, oh my God, I got another one. And I got another one. And you would come into our calls. You're like, I got 5 clients. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, where are we? Like, how do I get that? And so, but I agree with you, like the tools that were given to us there, like really gave us the start to be able to understand. And I think trust in ourselves to be able to be like, oh shit, we can do this.
Yes.
And
run with it.
Yeah. When we started seeing those results, cause it's the same thing, like I was able to pay off, like, it was a hefty price tag for that course, but it was well worth it. And, I was able to pay that off and then some, and it was so amazing to be able to like realize how in a short amount of time, the amount of money that you can make doing that, but also like now we were cultivating this whole group of people. I mean, yes, one-on-ones, but like these people that we were helping transform their lives and like having a direct impact and effect on, just like our coaches were doing for us. And I don't know about you, but that was the first time I had ever felt like I really could make an impact on someone's life.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like I tried before, right? Like I was trying coaching and I was like giving it all away for free because I actually had no idea how to like price myself as a service provider, right? Like I had such a disconnect between like my value and my worthiness to receive money for just simply being myself. Right? Doing something that came naturally to me, doing something that I enjoyed, doing something that was, rather easy, because I had this limiting belief that I was raised with of like, it has to be hard, right? Like it's like making money is hard.
Yep.
Money is a struggle. Making money is stressful. And so I was like, well, how can I make money doing something that's so easy and enjoyable? Like it just didn't make sense. Right. And so I completely blocked it. And I had no idea how to market. I had no idea how to, ask for money for, something that I was doing. So I was just doing it for free. I started coaching for free, like way before I ever, did Kristen's program. But I took it as an opportunity to say, like, this is how I'm going to learn how to like scale and like actually get paid and like lean into this fully and see like if I can really create my dream life. Right.
Yeah. And I think that it solidified the identity for us of like, we can do this and we want to do this. And this is what, we can be good at.
Yes. And we had so much support, like you and Kelly. I know we had our calls on the side, like
I know.
And the rest of the girls, like it was so healing in a lot of ways, right? Because it was a lot of that feminine energy too. And I think a lot of it, comes from that like sacral chakra, that womb energy of like creation, right? Like for me especially, I took my focus off creating, a relationship with a man, which was my focus honestly for like my whole life. Like that was a 5-year relationship. Before that, I was in a 4-year relationship. Like my whole life, like from 14 to 24 was essentially like focusing on creating a relationship with a man.
Wow.
Life with a man. And this really gave me the opportunity to like create a life for myself and like create a business and create soul tribe and create money and create like a beautiful home for myself. And like, it was just, wow. Like I tapped into something that I didn't even know was possible to tap into for myself.
Oh, I have like full body chills right now. Like that was, yeah, it's so true. Like once you allowed yourself, because I know that I remember we were in our own little group called the Bliss Girls. And we were talking about how, you had a possibility like to jump back into that relationship, and you were choosing yourself every single time. Like you had chosen that, like, this was the growth journey that you needed to be on. And you had realized that you had been building relationships with other people for so long. You had kind of avoided building the relationship with yourself.
100%. I was on the back burner for a long time.
Right. And like Kelly and I were so proud of you when you were like, you were feeling so lost, but you were so strong in what you knew you needed. Like we all have that intuitive, like we know what we need, but sometimes we just like, is it the right choice? We like doubt our intuition. And I think like once you started making these, shifts that you needed to make, that's literally, I mean, the floodgates open for you. Like you just had so much that was just coming at you, that was just waiting to rain its abundance on you. And finally, when you were like making the intentional choices to choose you every time, because you hit a lot of roadblocks of like, oh no, it's me and this now. It's me and this person now. It's me and, or it's me and this thing now, or this event or whatever it was. And like, you chose you every time. And like, I think your life now reflects that choice heavily of continuing to choose you, because like now, you basically are living your dream life because you chose you.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's an ever unfolding journey too, right? Like, as I'm sure with like, it's like your life isn't like a movie where it just ends, right? It's like, it's going like after you peak, you keep going, right? It's like you get to the top of the mountain or the valley peak, and then you're like, okay, now what? I can't stay here forever, right? So then it's like you go back down and you begin the journey kind of like all over again. And so how that's looked for me is meeting my business partner, Mimi, and then starting the online coach school and literally committing ourselves every single day, recommitting to, a shared vision, a shared process and journey as to like, what we wanted to create, which is, the online coach school to help new coaches start their coaching businesses and give them the permission and the tools to do the same in their lives, like create a purpose, impact driven life.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And I really want to get into not just, I mean, that's a great segue of like, now you have a business partner and so do I. And like also the first step of joining BMC, how we gave ourselves permission to do that. I think the overall theme is that it's been very hard for us in our lives to ask for help and give ourselves permission to like seek outside counsel. Or like we were talking before about how now we have business partners and like they do half the work and we do half the work. And in the past, for me, I don't even saying that out loud. It's like, that makes me feel lazy. Like,
right.
Wait a minute, I should be doing more, but it's like, no, like that's not the point. So I really want to like touch on that of like from your experience, because I know it was a little bit different of like how you had to give yourself permission. Because just as perfectionists, we tend to like always feel like it has to be us. We have to create everything. We have to work hard, kind of like those, conditionings that you were talking about before.
Yeah, 100%. I think it goes back into an aspect of survival, like the dance really between survival and creation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like to create, you can be a self-generating creator, but you can also be a co-creator. Right. Or you can just be living in survival, burnout, and overwhelm and paralysis. Right. And so it's like at that point, I had all this success that I didn't even know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with the amount of money that came in. I didn't know what to do with the amount of clients that I all of a sudden had. I didn't know how to like balance like working with clients and continuing to generate them, and then the program ends and then, like it felt like, everything was like, woohoo. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like now what? It's like you just threw a big party and then everybody leaves and now there's like a big mess and you have to like be the one to clean it up. And so it was kind of like, okay. So, I felt a lot of fear. I felt a lot of paralysis. I froze. I felt stuck. I like kind of found myself going back into my old ways, my old tendencies. And I was like scared, right? It's like that survival came back in where it was like, oh my gosh, like how can I do this all by myself? Like I can't. And I kept telling myself that I can't, right? And then so instead of, focusing on what I knew I was with and what I didn't want, which was to do it all by myself, I started to implant the vision of like what I was trying to call into my life, which was someone to share this journey with, like someone who really understood it. Because, as I'm sure you relate, being an entrepreneur or being a coach or being somebody who's running an online business, it can get hella lonely. And it's not like you always have all this do-re-mi to be like, keep investing in a mentor to like hang out with you and tell you what to do and guide you and hold you accountable. Right. And so that was where I felt stuck. It was like, well, I don't have the funds to like reinvest into another mentor and like, create this all over again. Maybe, right? Like, where is this going? Is that where it could go? I don't know. It was like so much confusion. And so, I basically just started calling in somebody who understood the journey and was willing to at least like walk that path with me. Like someone in a similar frame of mind, doing a similar, thing in their lives. And, once you get clear on what you want, you can see it when it comes. And like Mimi and I pulled up beside each other. Like how I describe it is it's like you're driving down the highway and then somebody like pulls up onto the highway beside you and you're like driving the same car, going the same speed, like looking at each other, wearing the same shirt. And you're just kind of like
listening to the same song.
The same song. Yeah. And so like all of a sudden we were just like, wow, like, we had worked with the same business mentor, Ross, and we, had all these other similarities, like similar wins in our business, similar timelines, like everything was literally the same, except for we worked in opposites. She was very in her masculine energy, very business driven. I was very in my feminine, very business driven also, but in a different way, right? Like less structure, more beingness, more flow.
More flow.
And, coming together, we just started a friendship and that kind of blossomed into, what it is now, which is a partnership and a co-creation process. But it took time and it took, zero expectations and holding no intention over like what the relationship could become. And it's just really naturally evolved where, like we both.
That's what I was going to say. Like, did it feel, because for Maggie and I, it was the same. It felt so completely not forced. Like of all the things that in the past that I've tried to make money and I've tried to get clients and tried to build a business. And like, this felt so like Maggie found me on my podcast, was a guest. I was like, oh my gosh, like you're amazing. Again, she's more in her feminine. I'm more in the masculine. Like when we have that. And I was like, this is amazing. Like we have to do something. Like it felt like a wasted opportunity if we didn't try to create something together.
Right. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that.
Yeah. 100%. For me, I've always wanted to, like, I work well in teams and I don't know why this didn't hit me like a ton of bricks sooner, but like being a dancer, a ballroom dancer specifically, like I can't do what I do without another person. Like we partner for a reason. There's this camaraderie, there's this conversation there. We create art together. And in my business, it's the same thing. I love having a teammate. I love being married. I love, all of those things. But I think for me, the reason that I didn't embrace it as much in my business as I did in my dance or in my personal relationships was because I felt like maybe for me, this was the limiting belief I was writing for myself, that it was kind of a cop out. Like, oh, you don't want to do all the hard work that all of this entails. So you want someone else to do it. Right? Do you relate to that?
I do and I don't. I think mine really stems from codependency.
Okay.
Because I noticed myself having that habit in my relationships, right, with men.
Sure.
I felt codependent, right? I felt like, oh, I can bring all this love and flow and fun and ease into a relationship. And like, you know, we can have a great relationship, but like, you're going to provide most of the like materially, structurally sound things.
Right.
I'm going to provide most of the like, you know, esoteric and like intangible things. Right. And like create, you know, how they say like a woman creates a home, like that kind of thing.
Yep.
Like, it's kind of like bringing that essence into the relationship. So I think, yeah, I carried, like a bit of a fear around like, oh my gosh, like, am I just being codependent? So maybe that really does stem into the same
little bit. Yeah. I just felt like I was trying to do it for so long. I've been an entrepreneur for, since like 2012-ish. And so it's been a while, but I've tried lots of different things. Like my path has led me through, public relations and social media marketing and event planning. And like, I've evolved my businesses over time based on what I was feeling I fit the mold in that moment, or what was needed. And when I finally found life coaching and, BMC and all of these things that were leading me towards this kind of pulling out all of the skills I already had and just like, using them, it was like, yeah, well, I mean, you've done it all on your own this far. Like, what's the difference now? But then there was something inside of me that said, but you work so well with a team and you can bring so much, like, to bringing something out in someone. I just talked to a friend of mine who does human design, and she's like, yeah, your chart says that you like bring out the best in other people. And I was like, oh, it does? I was like, that's so cool. I was like, because I do feel like I do that. Like I can see someone, and that's why, you probably do the same thing as like, as a coach, like we feel like we can kind of help clear the clutter for our clients and like help them kind of like bring their true self out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I do that with my husband. I feel like I do that with friends. I feel like that's kind of like my MO in relationships, and it's no different in my business. But again, it felt kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to do the content creation. I don't want to schedule the posts. I don't want to do, I would love to find someone that could do that. And it's like, is that just me being lazy? Like, should I be the one that is doing all of these things and just get over it? That was kind of the stick in the mud for me of like asking for help essentially, or trying to partner with someone. I think why it took so long.
Right. Yeah. Cause it's all about your come from place. It's the intention that you hold, and it's getting really clear first and foremost, right, in ourselves, in thyself, know thyself, as to like, where am I really coming from? And like, what am I trying to run from or hide from or offset in finding that partnership or that union, right? Because sometimes we can be deceptive to ourselves and to our needs and to our wants. And sometimes we can be very honest with them. And sometimes it's like, if we're just honest with the darkness and the shadows that are like, I actually don't want to do this, then we can like bring them to light and heal them and go, well, why don't I want to do that? Oh, like, because, XYZ thing. Oh, well, okay. Like, that's okay. You're okay to feel that way.
Right.
And then you just allow yourself to work through that block and then open yourself up for the abundance. Right. And as we know, abundance is not just money.
No. In fact, most of the abundance I've felt recently, it has nothing to do with money. It's been so much deeper than that. And that's the beauty of it. What do you feel, since you've been able to kind of like break through that wall of not just asking for help, but also allowing someone else to come into your space and participate in your success, or participate in the growth of, the opportunity for success, is, what have you learned the most about asking for help? And like, now, is it easier?
You know what? It is easier now. And I will say that's very recently. So like Mimi and I, we've known each other for about a year now, and we really started integrating things. I mean, it's December now. So we really started integrating things in like May. Mm-hmm. And so just like a month ago, I had like such a breakdown where I just like released all my fears, like everything. Like I laid it out all on the table where I was like, I can't pretend anymore. I can't hold this in. Like this is what I'm afraid of you to see in me. This is what I'm afraid to imprint on our partnership. Like this is what these are like all my biggest fears. And like some of those fears were that, you know, I am codependent and I don't want to be codependent and I don't want to make you feel like I'm codependent on you. Right. And so like that was like probably the biggest thing that like sat inside of me that was like holding me back and blocking me. And when I shared that with her, like she just received me and held me in such loving awareness that I actually don't know. And I really don't, I really believe like I've never been held and seen and supported in that way in my life by someone, you know, and not in like a coaching capacity, right? Where you're like paying somebody for their service, but just in a pure like relationship-based relationship. I've never been so seen, so held, so supported. And since that moment, like since really allowing myself to break down, to break through, that's when I really now can feel like this is how I can see how much I've been blocking myself and my ability to receive by trying to hold everything in and together and keep it all intact.
Wow.
Now I see it. And now I'm open to actually receiving that. And now I'm more willing to call it forth. And now I'm more willing to dive into it when you know, the
That's amazing. I love that. That's incredible. What a truly blessing and abundant partnership that has come into your life, and just a friendship, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like there's the friendship part, but then there's like the partnership business part, right?
That's it.
Yeah,
totally. Okay, so but I want to know, like, I see you on social media, you are, you know, doing all these nature walks, you're like these beautiful like morning routine showers with eucalyptus in the shower. You have decided to unfollow everyone on your social media so that you can be more of what did you call it? You
like
said
embodied, intrinsic, just.
But you also said that you were consuming too much.
Yes.
Right. So like you've done all these, you know, you've really set these boundaries for yourself. You've really set these like daily habits that allow you to fully be present in the moment. Talk to me about that. Like, is that your new lifestyle, or is that something that you felt like was always kind of a part of you? It's just, you know, kind of like me, I have a list of all these things I want to do in my morning routine, and you're finally doing it? Or is this something that's just happened because you've opened the floodgates?
Honestly, just opening the floodgates. Like I've definitely operated under the place and time of like regimen, like 5 a.m. every single morning, like gotta meditate as soon as I wake up, and then gotta like, you know, almost like you're like trying to take things that are all about being and like turning them into doing.
Right.
Like
That's so true.
And so I've definitely gone through that phase where I was very like harsh and strict on myself. I wrapped my identity around my habits. Like, oh my gosh, if I'm not doing these things, then I'm not this type of person. Like I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to be, you know, whatever. Right. It like totally messed with my self-worth a little bit more than it helped, I think, at times.
Yeah.
Because I got so consumed into it. And I think too, like before I would consume so much content and I was like reading all these books and watching all these other people's story and really coming from a place of like, oh, I have to do what they're doing because they have what I want, which is like this level of success or this level of abundance that I didn't feel like I had. Right. Yeah. And so in kind of shifting through that, I actually stopped all my habits and I allowed myself to sleep in till whatever time, because I could now with my coaching business, right? Like I could actually play with these things where I wasn't so in survival anymore, didn't have to be so in my masculine. And once I found that place, I was like, I'm going to stop all these beliefs by doing the opposite and allowing myself to see that like I can still have what I want by being whoever I want and living my life however I want, which is like sleeping in till maybe 9 when my body wants to naturally wake up, and not doing an hour-long meditation and not, you know, going to work out and all these things. And so as soon as I started, doing that, it was like I gave myself the time, space, and permission to just allow what naturally wanted to evolve to come through. And so now that I'm here, like like I do an hour-long meditation every single day now because I get to, and I love to, right? And I do move my body every single day because, again, I get to and I love to. I get to go outside in nature, and you know, the cold showers was something that I challenged myself for a good month, and it was like super, you know, stretching and mind expanding, and it's just getting to play with those and try them on, and not getting attached to them, right? And not putting the pressure on, which that's allowed it to become like a natural part of my life versus a force.
That's amazing. I love that you said that though, because you're right. It's like we become attached to these habits. And like, if you're not, you know, someone who reads a book every week, you're not a reader, you know, or you're not someone who meditates, you know, at least 15 minutes a day. Like, you're not someone who is present in the moment. Like, those two things are not, you know, in the same breath. And you need to give yourself, like, we all need to give ourselves the time and space to be present in whatever is coming up for us, but also like know that it's there. Those things are there as tools and as great habits that we can have. But if we skip a day or something happens or whatever, it's not, you know, it's not that we are no longer that person.
Yes, and it goes into this aspect of imperfection. Oh my gosh, I don't have to be perfect all the time and wear like a mask to pretend that I am this type of person. And this is, you know, like, and I'm afraid for people to see what's behind the mask, right? Like, I came across a very interesting concept because this past year I went to a women's leadership seminar for a week and like went camping by myself for 24 hours and like fasted. Like, it was like this whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a reflection given to me through some of the exercises of the women thought I was wearing a mask for like a good 4 days of being there. And like, I had no idea people felt that way or that I was portraying myself in that way. Like, zero conception of that. And so once we kind of worked through an exercise regarding masks and what they look like and how they take shape, it really became like almost like that Jim Carrey movie, The Mask, right?
Yeah.
It's like, does the mask have you or do you have the mask? Right? So it's like I was living behind this mask of like Patty Perfect, like, you know, and it's like, oh, everything's perfect. Everything's all good, all gravy all the time. And like, I did not realize how much that mask had me. I didn't even know that the mask had me. And so now that I can see it, you know, I can love it and understand that, like, okay, there is a time and place for this mask and it is safe to put it on. You know, at times I don't have to never wear it. I don't have to wear it all the time, but at least now that I'm aware of it, I can choose to put it on and take it off versus it just wearing me all the time.
Woo! That's powerful. Yeah. Yeah. That's insane. That is so true and so relatable, I think, to so many people, especially people who identify, you know, with perfectionism, because we always feel like we have to be on. I would say it that way. Like, I love the mask concept. It's very visual. But the way I would say that I used to say it was always being on, and being a performer, growing up a performer, like, you just always have to be, you know, that shining star. The spotlights are always on, they never turn off. And, you know, cause I used to be told by my coaches, like, you know, even when you get in an elevator, you don't know if there's a judge in there, like, don't say the wrong thing. Don't
govern yourself accordingly at the highest level.
Exactly. Don't be goofing off. Don't be acting stupid. You know, don't, you know, make sure that you always look good. And that is so triggering, you know, and so programming for, I mean, yes, it worked for the industry I was in, but at the same time, like, you know, to translate those types of beliefs into real life was very, destructive, you know, for my mental health, and you can't be on all the time. It's just not, that's not sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable at all.
Yeah. And it's exhausting. And that's what I truly believe, like, leads to burnout and, you know, just constantly living in survival mode, because even if you are thriving in the spotlight, that survival mode of never being able to leave the spotlight is just, you know, completely exhausting and stressful. And yeah, I love that you say, like, you know, the mask. I think that's such a powerful visual, that really, describes it well.
Yeah. And there's different types of masks, right? Like there's like the tough girl mask, right? There's the I'm Miss Perfect mask. There's the, everything's a joke, haha mask, right? Like there's all these different kinds of masks. And
Right.
like
These defense mechanisms, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Protection.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I mean, in that movie, The Mask with Jim Carrey, that's exactly what it was. It was this persona that he could ask out the girl, he could steal the money, he could do all the things that the regular him couldn't do.
Yes.
Didn't have the balls to do.
Yes, that's exactly it. And actually the other one that I wore, and this is like, this is super me just being open and vulnerable, but like I also wore the little girl mask. That was the other one. And it was kind of like, where I would put on this mask to be like, oh, kind of like save me. I don't know. Like I need help, or I'm not capable.
Right.
Even though I know I'm more than capable, it's like, that's what I would resort to. And like, again, completely unconscious of it. But now that it's in my awareness, I'm like, oh, wow. Like I can see myself where that's showed up in my life, my whole life.
Like the damsel in distress kind of thing. Come save me. Yeah.
Now I'm just like, okay, yeah, no. And it can also be a form of manipulation, right? Without even like, I was not even conscious of this. And like, that was where a form of manipulation, me manipulating other people, right, came into my life, was like, oh, I need help. I need you. When really I didn't, like not in that sense, right? Not in that codependent sense.
Right.
It's back into.
Yeah. My real growth journey really started, I say, when I met my husband 5 years ago. And now I'm going to start using that terminology. It's so good. He like showed me so many of the masks that I was wearing that I, again, completely unconscious of, that I had learned from the industry I was in, my parents, whatever. And a big one for me was I would justify my actions by throwing somebody else under the bus. I know. And I was like, oh no, that not something like, again, it came from a family member. And I was just like, oh my God. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, I know exactly where you get it. That so-and-so does it. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And then it became like disgusting when I would hear that person say it. And I was like, oh no, like I do that. I don't do it as deeply, but I do that. And like, to the extent of like, again, just feeling like it was a validation for me, like, well, at least I'm not doing it that bad because this person does it, and it's like that, like 1 and 1 does not make 2 there. Like you need to just own your shit, essentially. And I was not doing that. And so, and so that was like a huge mask that I was just wearing regularly and without complete, like you said, unconsciously. Until my husband pointed out and was like, what are you doing? Like, why do you always need to be like bringing someone else into the conversation?
Isn't that a beautiful thing when innocent ears can come in and correct? Because wow, like that is the kind of like goal I think that I'm realizing in my life is like just to come back to my purity, to my innocence, to my love, like unconditional love and simplicity. Like literally those 4 things.
Oh,
because
I agree.
when you are there, you see life so clear and you really can start to believe like, wow, that person's judgments are a reflection of them, not me. Right. Like that's when these statements really start to resonate. And
100%.
when, somebody can come and reflect that to you and show you, hey, what are you doing? Because you become a product of your environment.
That's it. I mean, when they say you become like the 5 most people you're around, like it's so true. So like choose wisely, because like you just, without being conscious of it. And, we can't always try to, again, that's being on all the time to be like, oh, I'm going to be around this person, but not become like them. Also, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to be around that person if they don't inspire you, or you don't want to be somewhat like them, So I think
I'll tell you why, because you want to help them. Right. And this is something that I see a lot of coaches go through. And this is something I definitely went through in my first relationship. Like I did not realize, like, as much as I felt I was impacting this man's life positively, he was also equally negatively impacting my life, And so that was what was happening, while all I thought was, I want to help him. I want to help him. I want to help him.
Right. He needs me.
Yeah, he needs me. Yeah. And it was like, where does that become this like ego dominated thing, right? Or this distortion of like needing to, essentially like control somebody or be controlled, right? To be the dominator, to be dominated, right? It's like this psychological thing that kind of happens when you have unhealed wounds and you have your own unhealed traumas and you're projecting them out into other people, thinking that you're going to heal them in them while you're actually just completely ignoring yourself. Right. Yeah.
Gosh, that's so true. So true. Yeah. That's crazy. I just can't get over like the image. I've never thought of it before as like multiple masks that we wear. We've talked about like they use the word facade a lot, things like that. But I mean, in the sense of just like these things. I mean, like I said, when my husband started pointing some of these things out to me, everyone's like, well, that's rude. And I'm like, no, it was so matter of fact the way he would say it. Like because of the cultural upbringing that he had, when he would bring up these things, he'd just be like, why do you do that? Like, where did that come from? And it was not like a judgment. It was more just like, hang on a minute. Like, wait, why was that the choice you made? And I'm like, that's just like, and I didn't even have an answer. That's when I started realizing it was a problem. Cause I was like, oh no, like, is that a bad thing? Like you don't even realize it in the moment because you're like, that's how I've always talked or acted or just reacted to anything. And that was just one example of like a few things, but like it was, and vice versa. Like I don't want people to think it was one-sided. Like I definitely felt, there were some things as well for him, but it was really cool that we were able to have those conversations and talk about it and be like, wait a minute, like there's maybe a better way to do that that's not going to self-sabotage or do something hurtful to someone else unintentionally even, or whatever. Like let's fix that and heal that because there's something there.
And that's love. That's union. That's like me, that is sacred union. That is divine love. Like when you can have like somebody who is actively reflecting you back to you and vice versa, right? It becomes like the relationship is about service. It's like, here, let me be of service to you. And in this way, and while I'm in service to you, you're actually becoming in service to me, which is in service for the highest good of all. And then it's like, you rise up together.
Yeah, totally agree. Absolutely agree. I love talking to you. It has been an absolute pleasure catching up and sharing your journey and your growth. Like I knew from the minute I met you in BMC that your journey was just going to explode. And it's crazy how when I remember like connecting with you on the level of like, oh no, we're both like this similar mindset and this perfectionism and like trying to do everything right and trying to make this work. And that's why I connected with you because I was like, oh, she's gonna, she's like, how you team up with people in school and it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to do all the work. You're not that person. I was like, oh, like she's just like me. Like we're gonna work just as hard to make this successful. But at the same time, I also like saw the stress that you would put on yourself. Like the things when you would ask certain questions, I'm like, oh, why would she even think that? She has all the tools already for her. She's making a problem out of nothing. And then I realized, oh my God, I do the same thing. Like, wait.
When you can see that, that's where your triggers, or not even triggers, like when your judgments, right? Not that that's like a huge judgment.
No, but exactly.
What you see in another person is actually what you are not seeing in yourself.
Yeah.
All the time. And so it's like, oh no, I love that so much. And thank you for reflecting that to me, because honestly, that has been probably like a lifelong journey for me to like unravel out of is that, right? Yeah. And like throughout this past year, I've had that so forefront in my awareness of, like how, I do that and have still caught myself doing that. And so it feels so much better now because especially with all the meditation I've been doing, I can really start to now see like, oh, these are the thoughts that serve me. I'm going to think more of those because they feel good in my body. And these are the ones that don't. And I'm going to actually stop them in their tracks, because when you realize that you are a creator and you create every thought, it's like you get to really choose what thoughts you think. That's instead of letting them unconsciously pass by and bring you down. Yeah. It's been a journey.
Amen. Yes. And it still is. The journey continues. But yeah, now we are crushing it, feeling so much better in our bodies. We're both running academies. For anyone who wants to apply for either of our academies, Kenzie, tell us specifically what the online coaching school, who it serves and what it does.
Yeah. So the online coach school, we are geared towards women. And, Mimi and I have this shared vision of elevating human consciousness ultimately, right? So we really want to help you extract your gifts, your superpowers, what makes you so magnetic, what you're passionate about, your medicine for the world, so that you can then learn how to create that into a business, make money doing something that you love, something that is impact and purpose driven, and then basically get out into the world and light the world ablaze with your message and your light and your mission. And that goes into the ripple effect that we're really looking to create. So we work with a lot of, health coaches, spiritual coaches, women's coaches. That's who we really work with. So yeah.
That's amazing. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
So awesome. We'll have all of Kenzie's links in the show notes, so you can reach out and connect with her and find out a lot more about what she does with her amazing partner. Shout out to Mimi. She seems like an amazing person, and she's in Australia, right?
Yes.
Is that where she's at? God bless.
We've been building a business from literal opposite sides of the world.
I know. How cool.
Pandemic, I don't know. It doesn't get much wilder than that.
Crazy. Gotta love when the internet works in our favor, Technology. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you again. And I adore you.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I'm Christine, and if this episode resonated with you or spoke to you in any way, please feel free to share. I absolutely love hearing from you guys and your thoughts about the topics based on your experiences. And also, if there's anything you want me to talk about, just screenshot this episode and share it on social media with your comments. Your feedback really helps me to curate episodes that best serve you. If you have time, I would greatly appreciate if you could leave a review wherever you're listening to this episode, whether on Apple or Spotify or any other platform. I'm wishing you a blessed week ahead, and remember, perfection doesn't exist. Take messy action. Healthy habits keep us balanced, and you are enough.